I am Anna Seawold, and this is Authentic Parenting, a podcast about growing ourselves while raising our children. I'm a psychologist, educator, and parent coach. And on this podcast, I explore how you can connect to your authentic self, practice radical self-care, and raise emotionally healthy children. Let's break the cycle of generational trauma for a more peaceful, kind, and compassionate world. Today, the middle path of parenting on attachment and why who you are matters more. I am joined by a longtime colleague and fellow parent coach as we reflect on 15 years of work in this space and how parenting wisdom has evolved. I am speaking with Todd Sarner. He is a parenting coach and psychotherapist with over 20 years of experience helping families turn daily power struggles and emotional chaos into connection, calm, and cooperation at home. His work is grounded in attachment science and practical psychology with a focus on giving parents real-world tools that actually work, especially when emotions are high and patience is low. A former faculty member of the Neufeld Institute and one of Dr. Gordon Neufeld's original interns, Todd has guided thousands of parents through transformative change with warmth, clarity, and deep respect for their values and intentions. He is the guy behind transformative parenting. I have known him for over a decade, and actually this is the first time we meet in person, even though it turned out back in 2015, when I first started the podcast, I had sent him an email to invite him to be a guest on the podcast. Only 10 years later, that actually happened. But we have known of each other's work for many years. In this episode, we talk about why quixes on social media often backfire and what parents really need instead. You'll discover the foundational role of attachment, the power of collect before you direct, and how to walk the middle path between chaos and rigidity. And make sure you listen all the way through, because at the end we talk about two of the most heartwarming practices for deepening connection with your child: the Disney hug rule and the magic of satiation hugs. This might just change the way you think about affection forever. I really enjoyed connecting with Todd. I enjoyed this conversation. He also shared some practical tools like bridging, matchmaking, and I hope you will find it helpful. Please enjoy, and thank you for listening. So, can we then talk about, now that we also have grown kids, right? We have also evolved and changed. What is required for, effective parenting? What do we need to provide for our children? And it sounds like you have evolved in your philosophy, and I have changed some of my thinking. What do you think is most important for us to provide for our children?
It's such a big question, right? We could talk for hours and hours upon that, and I know you and I would. But I don't know. I guess what I've come to say nowadays, I find myself saying several times a day, is our kids don't need us to be perfect. They need us to find this middle path. You know, I did a parenting series, I think you might have been involved in it 2014, because that was about the time some of the things we talked about before the interview, that I called it middle path parenting. And I'm thinking about bringing that phrase back more again. It comes from Buddhist language of, being on a middle path, not being on one of the extremes. Dr. Daniel Siegel talks about a similar thing when he talks about there's two banks of a river, and one of the banks of the river is rigidity, And that would be where we're trying to be perfect and we think we have to do this exact thing for the exact children all the time, And then the other bank of the river is chaos. So it's doing a different thing every day and not, as it applies to parenting and just kind of chaotic in the moment, but not in a present way. And that he says, mental health is, to paraphrase him, is like trying to find yourself somewhere in the middle of that river. So I think, attachment first, right? You and I think, agree on that. If somebody doesn't feel connected to you, you don't have a lot of authority. You don't have a lot of power in the best possible way. So I think parenting is about first setting up a culture where we have as much of a sense of connection that specifically in our context, our kids feel as connected as possible, as often as possible. So we collect before we direct, as Neufeld says. We strive to make sure we don't just enter a conversation and start telling them what to do. We help them feel connected when they're apart from us and help them look forward to coming back together after separations. We matchmake them with people that they're going to be in the care of. And that's our first and foremost, because if that connection is not there, nothing else works. We're building on sand. So in all the chaos these days of people saying it's this kind of parenting for this year and it's that kind of parenting for next year, attachment first is really the main message. Let's make sure that we're tending to our relationships, that we're tending to the garden. But then we balance it out as parents with things like consequences and limits, not as punishment, right? And that's why a lot of the debates out there, I think, are made up, that it's about being permissive and gentle or about being fierce and strict and letting kids suffer awful consequences because they have to learn. Consequences is just the teaching day to day of cause and effect. You don't eat dinner, you don't get dessert. You're yelling in the car, I pull it over. I don't have to yell at you, I just pull it over. And we're going to have less time at the park that we were going to because I had to pull over the car. That's just day-to-day teaching of cause and effect. That's absolutely essential. But then also, as human beings, we all build up a lot of frustration, from all the little and medium and big things in our lives that don't work, all the things we can't do or we can't make happen or that we can't be, or again, for kids, like I miss my parents during the day sometimes, or my teacher was mean to me, or my friends wouldn't include me in a thing, or my little sister is getting more attention. And I build up this frustration. And my parents setting limits with me, when I get really frustrated, I start being pokey, I start being irritable, I start getting a little aggressive. My parents setting limits with me is not a punishment, unless they yell and scream and take away things that I care about, which everybody's had their moments. But my parents saying no to me, kind of helping me ride through the wave of my frustration and my disappointment and all those yucky feelings inside that I don't want to feel. My parents saying no, but being compassionate and helping me ride through those feelings and register them and process them is not punishment. It's guidance. It's stewardship. It's helping me feel my feelings and get comfortable, or not comfortable, but to get confident that I can navigate those feelings. And then when I do navigate those feelings, I have new ideas and I have new energy and I soften. And that's not a bad thing, So I think the long initial answer to your question, Anna, is it's like balancing that attachment comes first, but then we also need to have these structures and rituals, some good day-to-day teaching of cause and effect. And occasionally, when my kid is getting really frustrated, I have to be the one who teaches them boundaries by saying no, but doing it with empathy and compassion.
Yeah, no.
Is that a good summary of 20-something years of...
Yes, I think that's what I expected you to say, and you nailed it, right? It's not the extremes. It's, yes, the kids need the love and affection and the warmth and the attachment, and they also need the guidance, the structure, the limits to survive, to live in, right? To feel protected and safe, to flourish, rest, grow, and play. Mark Namara's book, another Newfeldian. I think I had her on the podcast a couple of times.
Yeah, she came in I think I was in the first class with Neufeld's interns, and I think she was second or third. So I've known of Deborah's work for a very long time.
Yeah.
And that book was actually a lot based on Neufeld's preschool material, which I was obsessed with when I was with him because my son, who's now 22, was like 3 or 4 at one point when I think I was on faculty with Neufeld's Institute. And I heard a 3 hour talk he did in Alberta, 3.5 hour talk on preschoolers. I transcribed it by hand because I was so interested in the material, and I would spend my 1 hour consultations with Gordon once or twice a month talking about that material. He later made it into a DVD series, but I think that was the focus of Deborah's book and really good material.
Yeah. Have you ever wondered what it would be like to work with me? I offer one-on-one parent coaching, court-ordered parenting classes, and co-parenting counseling, available to anyone, anywhere. Visit authenticparenting.com to learn more. And as a listener of this podcast, you'll get 10% off all coaching packages. But like if you ask today's parent, do you know Gordon Neufeld or Dr. Deb McNamara? Many people wouldn't recognize those names, unfortunately, but they would know some social media guru who, who is just posting things without any like knowledge, experience. Everybody is a coach, and it just bothers me sometimes. That's why I do the podcast also, to shine a light on those experts who truly have something valuable contribution, and research and things like that.
Well, it's like everything else, right? When people, I don't feel an arrogance about it or something, but I've known of your work for a long time, and I so appreciate that you're doing exactly what you're doing and highlighting, real people out there doing the real work. And I think that's great. But when you do something for a couple decades, everyone out there, I'm sure there's things that you're really good at, and some of you have been doing them a couple decades. You're good at it, and it's reps. I use that word a lot now. Reps, repetitions. There is no, and I'm sure it's the same for you. There is no parenting question that I get thrown at me any day that I haven't heard 1,000 times. And boy, did that help me as a dad too. It helped me as a parent, right? And sometimes I say selfishly that, I do this work because I wanted to keep parenting things in my mind, in my consciousness. I didn't want to get unconscious about it. But yeah, I try so hard to stay in the non-judgmental space especially about parenting. And most of the time it's not difficult to be in that space because I'm a parent, I'm a human, you are. We know these issues are real and we're all experiencing them and we're struggling with the same things. The times I have a little bit of a harder time with the non-judgment thing is when people get on social media and they say, now it's F around and find out parenting and you just have to do, or gentle parenting doesn't work because it's this. And it's like, that's not what Yeah. And it kind of bothers me, but I understand people are busy. They have a lot going on, especially parents. And if somebody on Instagram is telling you in 40 seconds the way to perfectly solve every problem with every child right now, like, oh, that's tempting. I would be tempted if I was, a new parent. But I would just say practically look at, did it work? Because almost all of these things, they either don't work from the beginning and make you feel bad because that expert told you they work and you're like, but it doesn't work for me. And they have 10,000 likes in an hour. So it must be, But I would also say that even if they work a little bit, they stop working. And then you're at the beginning again. And then all you're doing is what I call sometimes whack-a-mole parenting. Do you know that game?
Yes,
whack-a-mole.
yes.
I used to go and I don't know if you had Pizza Time Theater, Chuck E. Cheese in New Jersey, but
We do.
It was I have a whole backstory with that. I was actually on their junior board of directors when I was 13 years old. I got to go play video games and eat pizza and, with Chuck E. Cheese, but they had the whack-a-mole game where this would pop up and you try to hit the mole on the head with the whatever that was.
Mullet or whatever it is. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what most of the parenting culture is on social media. It's like, oh, this problem, oh, get it. Okay, but now this problem happens. Oh, get it. That's why I appreciate anybody. I love Dr. Becky. I don't really find myself wholeheartedly endorsing a lot of people out there because I find that they do a little bit of this well or a little bit of that sometimes. I love Kim John Payne's work. He's become a dear friend and colleague over the last 15 years. I love Gordon's work. People like Deb put out great books, but Dr. Becky puts out some good stuff. But boy, is so much of the stuff out there whack-a-mole. And I just think it makes you feel worse about yourself when it doesn't work.
Yeah.
And so anybody who has more of a comprehensive strategy that, hey, it's about walking a path. It's about walking in the right direction. It's about creating an environment. And like Neufeld was very fond of saying, and I've heard it out there a lot, discipline is the same root word in Latin as disciple. It's not what you do to your child when they do something wrong to make them stop, which is what a lot of the advice is. Parenting is about creating a culture and being proactive most of the time so that the problems don't happen that much. And when they do, they're a lot less severe and they're a lot less often, you know? And then it becomes more of a feeling like, oh, my child just doesn't know how to do something in this moment. Oh, how can I help them figure out how to do it? You know, that's what discipline becomes in the moment, is more like, oh, what does this mean? I hate you. You're the worst parent in the world. I want you to go, okay, try not to take that personally and figure out why my kid's frustrated right now and what are they really communicating? They're probably communicating in that hypothetical I just made up. Some combination of, I'm feeling really insecure and I'm not sure you love me and I haven't got enough from you. And two, I'm super frustrated, partially to do with that, partially to do with a lot of other things in life. And if you could please just be a good guide and meet me here and walk me out of it, I'd really appreciate it. You know, but they can't find those words.
Yeah. But when we do stay like a solid rock and not take it personally, which is hard work, but it's doable, they do find the language and we have to teach it, right? I'm thinking of, based on my parenting example, at some point it all clicks and children internalize all the teaching. And when they are older, all the investments that you did when they were young, there's a return, like, you know,
absolutely,
like the way my daughter communicates her needs or what she wants. It's like so mature. And I'm like, wow, this is like incredible. When I was her age, I did not have this language, this vocabulary, this knowledge, and this awareness about myself, about my inner workings. I was anxious and frustrated and fearful, right? Like a very neurotic kid. And just seeing that in our children, it's amazing.
That's part of the overall best message for parents is that hope, you know, that it does click. You know, you have a 17-year-old, I have a 22-year-old. Like, you have your ups and downs, and we certainly had them. You know, a lot of stuff, you know, can build up over time or you need to correct it. But I don't know. I've been around personal and family young adults lately, and we were just on a vacation in Jamaica with my fiance's family, very extended family. But I also get to see young adults, like in my friends. We just got together with some friends for a barbecue a couple days ago, and I saw a friend of mine who our kids went to kindergarten together at a Waldorf school in Marin, and just hearing about how well his son is doing at McGill University in Montreal, where I know Gordon had some kids go. My point is, we hear so many scary stories about what's happening with kids these days. Jonathan Haidt's book, The Anxious Generation, pointed out a lot of things about skyrocketing anxiety and depression, and those things exist and those things worry me. But the point of my little, you know, diatribe now is I'm also seeing these amazing young people, you know, my clients' kids, I'm sure your clients' kids, your daughter, my son. We're seeing these kids that, like, boy, does it give me hope. And that's the payoff, right? That's what you were talking about earlier. man, it's going to be hard sometimes helping a human being figure out how to become a human being. That's hard. And a lot of us did not get what we needed. A lot of us didn't get, some of us, thankfully, when I hear about somebody having wonderful parents who were imperfect but wonderful, I love that. But most of us didn't get the exact guidance that we would have liked and have different situations. You have yours, I have mine. But if we can engage in what I always refer to as that hero's journey, like the Joseph Campbell, keep your eye on the prize, keep going that right direction, keep having faith, keep trying to do the right thing. That, wow, I can't imagine a better outcome than looking at your kid and going, okay, maybe they're not a complete human. I mean, maybe they're not all the way there yet. Hopefully we keep learning and growing as humans. And by the time we go off to college or something, we're not done or something. But boy, is it rewarding to see just good character people who have the built-in kind of capacities and skills they need as a foundation to do really well in life. And that's the main thing that I do this work for. And I know you do, is let's help kids meet their fullest potential that they can. Let's help them. And all kids are different. Whatever their potential is, let's get behind that potential and help them develop it.
Yeah. What have you learned or discovered about being a parent? What is sort of essential? What skills, let's say, if you were to distill to, I mean, looking back at your own parenting and the work you've done with so many parents, thousands, what do you think? Because I feel like we often, as parents, we undervalue ourselves. We don't celebrate our wins and victories. We always focus on our mistakes. We are doubtful. We are not self-compassionate. We judge ourselves. We ruminate on our past mistakes, and we let that color our overall relationship with our children, as opposed to like taking this long view of parenting, right? And seeing what we have created, what we have, it's hard practice. But I've been thinking a lot recently about what's essential for today's parents. What skills, if I were to teach, let's say 5 skills, 10 skills to be a great parent, what would those be? I mean, I have my own ideas, and obviously we haven't planned this ahead of time, so I am putting you on the spot. But looking back, maybe what have you worked on in yourself, the skills, or does this question like land the way I anticipate? Or
Yeah, it's just one of those things that you already, you've heard me go on my rants for many years now, different times. For me, it's just a matter of how do I answer concisely,
no, don't worry
and not
about it.
speak.
Yeah.
But, a lot of things come up for me. One of the things, 4 things came up that I just made a little note about to keep myself on track. I come back over and over again to something Neufeld said early on. It might be in the book. I don't remember. I read the book 10 times, but it's been a while. I don't remember what he said to me over a glass of wine at a hotel after a training in Canada, in 2005 versus what was in the book. But we had some great conversations at those trainings. But he has a quote that he said that I come back to a lot, that parenting is more about who you are to your child than what you do. And like a Zen koan or something, like you could think about that for a long time and people go, okay, Todd, get to the point of like what I do with that, right? But if you think about that first, I'll definitely talk about a skill or two, but who does your child need you to be? I think your child needs you to try. I think they need you to be as present as possible. I think they need you to be generous when possible with your attitude. And I think, like Neufeld said, if you know who you're meant to be to your child, the what to do's kind of flow naturally from there. So we're starting off a little bit more philosophical, but I actually believe that. So anything I can do to take care of myself, to go for a walk in the morning, to meditate, to make sure I'm taking care of my primary relationship, to getting my frustration out elsewhere and not in front of my child, to have community, and to have people that I can lean on, and have community that I know I can trust my child with them. Like, it's kind of more that stuff that I focus on, that being like as present as I can be. Like today, maybe this isn't exactly what I did 20 years ago, but nowadays my kid's out of the house, but I get up in the morning and I take a walk for an hour because I find it like stills my mind a little bit. It gets energy out. I get the daylight exposure, which is good. It resets my kind of, melatonin. I work out in the gym 3 times a week, not because I want big muscles, because I find that it helps me regulate. I meditate once or twice a day for 20 minutes. These are all things that I know the parents out there who are very busy say, that's nice for you, Todd, but I don't have time for that. Well, back when I was in the thick of things with a kid in the house and everything, I couldn't do all of that, but I did try to meditate once or twice a day. I did learn breathing exercises like 4-7-8 breathing. Breathing in deeply through your nose to the count of 8, holding it about 7, releasing it very slowly through your mouth to the count of 8. I just told you the whole thing. You don't have to go to a course. Dr. Weil has a good YouTube video about it. But I start with that. I can give you so much parenting advice, parent out there. I could sit down with you and in an hour, I could tell you everything. And a lot of people would have a hard time doing it because maybe they're not feeling grounded, they're not feeling centered, they're not taking care of themselves, right? I would say that other thing I just mentioned is build a community, build a village. It helps you not have to be the answer all the time. If you build a culture in your home of collecting and bridging and matchmaking, which we can say more about, if we have a village of families, even just a handful, that we have kind of the same rules and understandings, like about screen time. But one of the things that I heard you say is just about that critical inner voice, right? And I don't know if this came from Neufeld, if it came from someone else, but I've been saying this I've had 2,200 something coaching clients in these years. Your conscience telling you, hey, I wish I would have done that better. Your conscience feeling a little guilty, you feeling a little tiny bit of shame because you raised your voice or something, that's actually helpful. And I know some people don't say that. People will say, don't feel shame, don't feel this, and that doesn't work. We do it anyway, right? But a little tiny bit of guilt, a little bit of shame, a little bit of that angel on your shoulder going, hey, we don't want to do it that way. That is valuable, but it's only valuable if you then try to learn from it and do something differently, take a different action. I'm yelling at my kid every day. Okay, that's a problem. Sure. Maybe you should feel a little bad about that. You don't want to do that. But what are you going to do now to try to learn that breathing exercise? Or what are you going to learn now to go talk to some other parents in a parent group, and get out your frustrations there, or go seek therapy if you're having a lot of problems, or a parenting coach like us to help you with it. But do something with it when you hear that voice. If you start replaying that voice in your head over and over again and beating yourself up with, I feel so bad and I'm screwing up my kid and all these things over and over again that people do, you're not helping yourself and you're really not helping your child. Your kid doesn't need you to be perfect. They need you to be there. And if you're looping in your head with things like that, there's something that our brain tells us that if it keeps looping, it's going to help us change. I don't know if you've noticed as a human, it doesn't. It doesn't. And just skill-wise, I think the number one thing is what we said before. My ability to drop my workday, to drop the podcast I was just on, or the clients who are fighting that I was just dealing with, because I'm also a couples counselor for parents, and just be able to leave the office and go connect with my kid, to be in the present moment. And that doesn't mean I have to be happy, joy, right? But just be there and not be operating from a script and be operating from being authentic in the moment and being real and striving to get that green light on that you referred to. Like that just sense that, okay, we're here together. That is the number one skill. We could talk about 15 skills. We can talk about all these other things, but if you don't have that, you're not going to be as effective with any of the other ones. So anything you can do in your life that works, like the 478 breathing that I just said, you can do that in the car. You can do that while you're driving somewhere. You can do that with your kid in the back seat. Just notice yourself getting into a rhythm of slowing down your breath, breathing out more slowly. I did that for years when I would drive to go see clients or go do a talk at a school. I would always do that breathing for 15 or 20 minutes on the way because I found it helped me land. So if I was coming home being at work all day, I would do that just so when I walk through the door and my son comes running towards me, gaga, gaga, because that's what he used to call me when he was little, that I'm not, okay, hold on a minute. I just got here. No, I've already landed. So I don't know if I started to answer your
You did,
question,
you
but
did. No, I'm loving this. Don't double, don't get second guess your
my voice
answers.
in
I
my
love
head
it.
telling me.
No, no, I love it. This is what I want to hear your thoughts. Obviously,
Excellent.
I completely agree. I always say that too. Who you are matters a lot more than what you do with your kids. And I mean, we can talk about who you are and just,
But isn't that a lot more, it's a lot more simple too, right? If
yeah.
I thought I had to remember 100 different things to do as a parent, that's overwhelming. But
Mm-hmm.
if I keep reminding myself, it's more how I'm showing up and who I am to my child. And I've always loved Dr. Neufeld's language of like Papa Bear, Mama Bear, right? You're not a dictator. You're not a pushover. You're a mama bear. My job is to take care of you. And I won't do it perfectly, but that's my job. What are you asking me for? What are you bugging me for? My first question to myself is, what is it in this moment to take care of my child? That's directly from Neufeld. What is it in this moment to take care of my child? Is it giving them ice cream for dinner? It would make them happy, but would it take care of them? Okay, no, I want to take care of them. I'm going to get them a good meal, or I'm going to get them some connection, or I'm going to wait out their little mood. So, anyway.
No, I liked what you said also about presence, right? It's a fundamental skill. And what you said about like it's not presence doesn't mean happiness. We always, presence I think is more important during difficult times when your child is going through a difficult emotional moment. Being present to that is like so transformative. You
Yeah.
can be present with someone who is happy, like that's so easy.
Oh, yeah.
But try
Well,
to be present during difficult moments.
like one of the most fundamental building blocks in psychology that applies to parenting and applies to just how we want to live our life, but our relationships as adults is mirroring, right? And
Yeah.
it's in all the literature. And it starts off with just a mom, like in a baby, or a dad and a baby, and the baby doesn't have language yet. They don't know what you're saying, but they're going, "Ah, yeah, yeah, ba, yeah, ba," and you're like, "Ah, yeah, 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 ba," and you're matching their facial expressions, you're matching their tone, you're smiling when they're smiling, or if they get frustrated, you go, "Oh, I'm so frustrated," right? But they actually like it because you're mirroring how they feel. And when you mirror how somebody feels, it really helps us feel like our feelings are real. I can't find the exact word I usually say here, but it's like it's confirming of our emotions being real. I say all the time, especially with empathy, does not mean you agree with a person. Empathy means you're striving to understand where they're coming from. And so, to your point, Anna, like if my child's very frustrated, and my response to them is, "Oh, come on, things aren't so hard. You have it so tough. Come on, it's a great day, whatever." Yeah, there's a time and a place where maybe that might be part of my toolbox, but in general, that's not going that's going to be frustrating, just like it would be to your partner. You know, I'm so mad at you. Oh, come on, get over. Oh, just like I tell usually husbands, like, it has never worked in the history of ever to tell your wife to calm down, which is something that comes up a lot. But no, mirroring sometimes is, I know you think I'm the worst parent in the world right now. You are so frustrated with me. And then your kid goes, yeah, you are so frustrating. But then something magical happens. You heard them. They feel like you heard them. You mean it. And that's where the presence comes in, right? Because if I say it because I heard it on a Instagram reel or something, and so I just mouth the words, not that good people don't give good advice sometimes on those, but if I just mouth the words, my kid knows I'm just mouthing the words and mom just read another book and or mom just watched another YouTube video. No, if you really work on being present and you say seriously, and I look at you and I say, I am so sorry. You feel really frustrated with me right now because I'm saying no to something you really care about, but I'm your mom and I love you. And the best I can tell is saying no to you about this is the best thing. And so I'm sorry. I'm going to stick with it. Ooh, they might not immediately go, oh, thank you, mommy. But they're going to feel seen and they're going to feel heard. And I've been doing this a long time, parent coaching, individual counseling, couples counseling for parents. I'm telling you, empathy, empathy, empathy. Your partner is probably mad at you, not because you're a bad person, but because they don't think you understand where they're coming from. They think you don't care about how they're feeling. And that's the root of so many problems with couples. Why wouldn't it be true for kids? You know?
Yeah, yeah, we've done a fantastic episode. I'll link it in the show notes along with this conversation about validation, a whole full episode. It's really great. So, oh my gosh, there's so many things you're saying. I want to like
We'll
comment and
schedule four
we
more.
have to schedule more episodes. But before you go, I want to ask you to share your classic bridging and matchmaking that is still, resonant in me and I use it in my work, that language.
Yeah, yeah, that does come from Neufeld again, who we're bringing up a lot because I know you know his work too. He's up on my wall for if anybody's watching, visually. I don't, it's audio, but with some of my favorite developmental minds and some things. I would like to think that I've learned a lot in all these years of working with clients and I've developed my own ways of doing things in a lot of ways. But yeah, Neufeld's teaching from The Power to Parent that I watched 22 years ago and in the book still resonate for me. And a lot of Neufeld's brilliance is he didn't necessarily make up a lot of things. He observed them and he noticed things in literature and he observed other cultures and how they were doing things. And he noticed that in North America, mostly America, but Canada kind of also, that we weren't doing some of the fundamental cultural things we're supposed to do day to day that support us as a parent, that make the job easier, that make kids feel connected more often and make them feel less anxious. And again, part of the power of this, of these rituals, is sometimes parents feel the whole world is on their shoulders all the time to, I need to get connected with this child. I need to get that green light on to get that connection, right? Yeah, we have a lot of power for those things. But if we're building out this culture of collecting and bridging and matchmaking, which I'll give short explanations for, it lessens the load. It makes it less important that you always are on top of things when you build out these things. So collecting is this simple idea that you can't just assume relationship. You can't just think that because your 4-year-old is your 4-year-old and you love them and you're a good parent and they've been playing in the other room for a half an hour or they've been at school for 4 hours, that you automatically can just pick up and start telling them what to do and you direct, right? You need to get into relationship. You don't assume relationship, even with your partner. Okay, I keep using these examples because sometimes it helps adults. There's a mountain of marriage research that says things like the welcome home exercise with one of my friends and mentors, Dr. Stan Tatkin, or hugging till relaxed, David Snarch in Passionate Marriage, that when you come home from work or your partner comes home, you stop everything, you look at each other in the eyes, and maybe you have a hug And the whole goal is just to let each other relax, right? That's for adults. But with kids, you don't assume they're feeling connected to you, including with young kids because their brain connects to multiple things at once. And teenagers, they have a million things going on in their head and their body at once. You get the eyes, you get the smile, you get the nod, you sit next to them, you collect. But the things you specifically mentioned are bridging and matchmaking. You can't always be with your kids. And one of the main fundamental issues with human psychology that people don't even understand how it permeates so many issues is separation anxiety. That as human beings, we're very afraid of being disconnected from those we love. And this is psychological, this is emotional, but it's actually deeper than that. It's about survival. That as human beings, we do not survive without other human beings, right? It used to be the worst thing you could do to a human being to shun them and make them like not welcome in the village, you know? It was like one of the worst punishments you could do to somebody. Children would not survive if they didn't have the adults in charge of them. So that's how deep the need to hold on while apart is. And so bridging and matchmaking are the things we do day to day to help make up for the fact that we can't always be with our kids, right? And that's where this helicopter parenting idea that we could go over for a lot of people don't talk about it as much these days. Got it wrong because the assumption was you always have to be with your kid and you always have to hover around your kid and you co-sleep until they're 15 and you go off to college with them. And you, right? I'm exaggerating to be funny, but
No, I'm laughing because my neighbor their daughter got accepted to college and they moved where the child went to college. I'm laughing
right.
because it's still,
Which might again,
I'm
there's
not judging
scenarios
them,
I can
but
imagine where that could be okay. But if your kid doesn't get comfortable with being away from you, specifically, they don't feel like they can hold you in their heart and in their mind when they're away from you, you're not doing them any favors. So yes, be with your children as much as you can, spend good quality time with them when you can, but bridging is the idea that human beings are born with this tendency to focus on the separation aspect of things. So your kid likes their school, but they focus on the fact that they won't be with you, so they don't want to go to school. Or your child doesn't want to go to sleep because even though you're in the next room or something, they don't feel as connected, so they don't want to go to sleep and they ask you for 15 glasses of water. So bridging is the idea that we're training the mind to focus on the reunion with our loved one, not the separation, because they'll naturally. So it's things that people do all the time. I just usually find with my clients, I have to teach them to do it more consistently and, kind of like learn what's working and not with their kids. So talking about, in the morning, the story I tell all the time about my son was when he was like 3.5 and he stopped wanting to go to sleep sometimes. I would start talking about in the morning, we're going to make blueberry pancakes and you can sit on the counter and help me make them. And I'll probably give you 15 hugs, whatever. But I'm giving him a visual thing to focus on about what happens when we come back together. And I will also give him things to focus on while we're apart. Like last night I came home and you were asleep and mommy put you to bed, but I came in and I kissed you on the head while you were sleeping. So it's reminding children that even when we were apart, I kissed you on the head, or I thought of you while you were at school and I had a big smile and I felt like I was having my lunch with you because I was having lunch about the same time you were. Having an environment where we're doing that more often. And matchmaking is simply, if you're going to have your child in the care of others, like a daycare or a babysitter or a nanny, or sometimes a family member, sometimes the other parent, because the kid is really, really focused with their attachment energy on mommy right now. Mommy might have to matchmake with daddy, right? Don't take it personal, dad. It's just right now at this age, they're just some days they just really want mommy more, or the other way around, right? And so matchmaking, you can think about it as like adult matchmaking, take the romantic part out of it, but hey, I have this friend that I am really attached to and I really like, and I have this other friend who I'm really attached to and I really like, and I think they would actually get along together. So I'm going to tell this one about this one. I'm going to tell this one about this one. I'm going to help their relationship work, maybe they get married or maybe they don't, but I'm lending my attachment with my child. Let's go non-romantic and go to the teacher. I'm going to talk nice things about the teacher. I'm going to let my kids see me talking to the teacher with a smile on my face. I'm going to go to the teacher and say, hey, you know what? You know what I've learned about Bobby, my son? Not my son's name, but he really loves it when at the beginning of the day you come up to him and give him a big smile and shake his hand. He just loves that. And when you ask him to help you out, oh boy, does he really like that. And so I'm helping make the relationship work, right? These are critical things that I'm convinced after thousands of hours of coaching people, and not just individually, webinars, you've seen some of them, webinars, classes in person. I've heard everything. I am convinced that 80% of our issues would be solved if we worked on being present, collecting and bridging and matchmaking. And then, like I said, we don't get rid of behavior problems exactly, because behavior issues, when they're normal, are just part of development, the developmental process. It's like I said earlier, it's our children demonstrating to us, Mom, Dad, I don't know how to do this yet. You can tell your 4-year-old or your 17-year-old, use your words, but what if they don't know how to right now? It doesn't help them to tell them to use their words. Most of the time, behavior is a normal signal to you as a parent. I don't know how to do this. I'm frustrated. I don't know what words to use here. I need your help. That's what most normal behavior is. The more extreme things that you're dealing with are probably because you haven't built out this culture the right way. You're not doing consequences in a non-punishing but consistent way. And maybe you're not setting limits when your child is feeling full with frustration. Now, I know maybe we're getting close here, but please hear me, all of you out there in Anna's wonderful audience. I did not just judge you for not knowing how to do some of those things or not doing them. I'm just saying get on that path. That if you're noticing some of these things are consistent, it probably means, okay, I just need to learn how to do consequences more. I just need to know how to set limits more. And maybe I can do more bridging. Because going back to your original question about bridging and matchmaking, you can usually tell a child is having a hard time holding on because right before that period of time or right after that period of time, they're showing more problems, right? So right before school, they're really, really not willing to get their shoes on. Or right after school. This was my kid in the first year of kindergarten. He acted like a little angel at school. He never acted out, ever. He was a good little citizen, and that even worried me sometimes. I'm like, get it out, man. Get it out. You can get out your feelings. But boy, would he come home and be a little devil child some afternoons, because he was having a little bit of a hard time holding on at school. Does that make sense?
It does. I'm loving everything you're saying. Yeah, no, it's wonderful. I'm smiling because I have a little neighbor. She goes to, pre-K kindergarten, I guess. I asked her, I said, hey, Abby, what is your favorite part of school? She said, coming home.
Yeah.
It was so
and
cute.
That's normal and natural, but it is also part of their development that we find that middle path that, yes, things I've already said, be with them when you can. Quality of attention over quantity of attention. Absolutely, guys. I'm not saying spend 5 minutes with your kid, but as they grow a little older, they really need to be able to hold you in their head and in their heart when they're away from you. And it's part of our job to develop that. And when they feel us in their head and their heart more when they go to sleep, when they feel us in their head and their heart more when they're at school, then they don't mind, because they're not thinking of how much they miss you. They're thinking about how sweet it's going to be when I get that big hug when I get home, right?
Yeah.
And that is a skill, and that is a feeling that will serve them for life.
Have you ever wondered what it would be like to work with me? I offer one-on-one parent coaching, and have had the privilege of helping many of my podcast listeners over the years. In addition to private coaching, I also provide court-ordered parenting classes and co-parenting counseling available to anyone, anywhere. Visit authenticparenting.com to learn more about how we can work together to achieve your parenting goals. And as a podcast listener, you will receive 10% off all coaching packages. I love the emphasis. I also say that to my clients, because oftentimes when a child refuses to go to school, which most kids do, parents always sell the school it's going to be great. You're going to meet your friends. You're going to do this. You're going to do that. And instead, I always tell them, no, focus on your connection, that I'm going to come and pick you up. We're going to do this like you with the blueberry pancakes. That's what they want to hear, because the more you emphasize that they're going to have a good time at school, maybe that's true. They will have a good time. But they want to hear that the connection matters, right? You want to focus on that.
The connection matters, and that's absolutely true. And a little bit also that I'm really not making a big deal of their friends and things. That's wonderful. But it's like, and you will be with Miss Yelena. That was my son's kindergarten teacher the first year. She had a baby, and so she wasn't his teacher the second year. I saw her a few years ago, but she teaches in San Francisco now. Wonderful woman, born in the Ukraine. He loved her, but he did miss us, and so we focused on after school and coming back together. But we also would say nice things about Yelena because Yelena was our representative while we're not with you.
Yeah.
She's not your attachment figure per se. I'm not building her up as your main person. I'm just saying we're lending you to her for the day, your attachment to her. And so that's what I do a little bit. But yeah, the focus, like you're saying with your clients, is get their brains focused more on what it's going to be like to come back together.
Yeah. And about the hug, when you said about the hugs, I wrote a little note here. I heard something recently. I don't know, it was about Disney characters. I think when you go to Disney, let's say a child hugs a Disney character, they hug the child as long as the child wants to hug. And the moment the child's let go, they stop the hug. So this is like a nice principle. Like if you're hugging your partner or your child, you said you feel relaxed, and you do sometimes feel like the other party just relaxes in your arms.
Different hugs for different purposes. I absolutely understand what you're saying, and especially if it's a 6 foot tall character in a costume. And there's another kind of hug that Neufeld talks about with satiation that I've been teaching forever. And it's the idea, and it's not contradictory to what you're saying, it's just a different moment. That I want to give you a hug that's just a little bit more than what you're asking, right? So if you and I hypothetically were married and I came home and you said, hey, Todd, can I have a hug? And I went, oh, of course. And I just gave you a little hug, you'd probably get frustrated. Okay. I've been telling that story for 20 years, and I'll see a woman in the audience elbow their husband, like, yeah, stop doing that. But more and more these days, it's the husband doing that too. But the idea of satiation is by the time you ask for something, I need to give you more than you were looking for. I need to give you a little bit more than you're looking for, or I need to learn I'm going to give it to you first. So when my son used to on hikes sometimes, I tell this story all the time, but he used to start dragging his feet when he was 4 or 5 and whining a little bit. And sometimes when I was not being as present as I wanted to, I would start bracing a little bit and I'd be like, oh God, I can't pick you up right now. We have to get home. Dad has to go do something. My back hurts right now. I can't. And I know that's what you're going to, right? And I wasn't even thinking it consciously, but it would turn into this power struggle where he just wanted to be held and wanted, right? When I noticed that was happening, probably because I was talking to clients one of those days, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm not doing what I told them. I started learning to pick him up first. I would just go, you know what? I need to get to work and I need to get you home to mommy and you guys are going to have a great time. but boy, do I want to give you a big hug right now. And his eyes would just light up like, oh my God, man, how did you know? And I would just pick him up if I could, if my back was hurting, because I used to have like back issues sometimes when he was younger, mostly because I used to be a roadie in college and I used to have to lift heavy things all the time. But when I did that, oh my goodness, would he get so excited? He would feel so filled up, and then he would want to be let down immediately. And so that's the idea of satiation. So it's not a disrespectful, okay, let go of me now. It's more of a, oh, I have a little bit more than you even need, that kind of hug.
Love that. I love that. Heartwarming. Well, thank you so much. This has been great. We can do more
It would be fun. Anything I can
focused
do.
podcast. And please,
Yeah.
if you want to promote anything, I would be happy.
I don't really come on promoting stuff. If people resonate with any of the message, go to our website, transformativeparenting.com. I put out if you sign up for our newsletter, I put out article every Monday that I feel is important, that I'm hearing questions about. We have a YouTube channel that doesn't have, well, they might have commercials, but we don't have commercials. We're not usually promoting anything, just some of the most common questions. I have a master class that's 20 minutes long on our website for people interested in the work. There will be a book in a few months, November of 2025. I think this is the first time I'm saying that out loud because it's finally almost ready. But in general, my cat, did you hear my cat in the background? She
No.
needs some attention. She's asking for a hug. But yeah, just go to our website. That's the easiest way to stay connected with us.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate connecting with you in person. Like I've known you, your work, and I've been inspired by your work for many years.
Oh,
And I'm glad
thank
you
you.
came into my orbit and you're in my podcast now. Thank you.
And like I keep saying, and I told you before, I so appreciate what you're doing. The guests you have on, the topics that you speak about. I've said over and over again, I've been doing this a long time. I know when somebody's authentic and when they're doing good work, and I just appreciate it because I've always felt a rising sea raises all boats. I've always thought we just need more people doing good work and sometimes focused on a little bit different aspects of parenting, but I really resonate with your message, and thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thank you. That concludes today's conversation, my dear listener, and I hope you found this episode helpful and inspiring. Be sure to hit that follow button so you don't miss future episodes, and take a moment to leave a rating and review. It really helps others find the show. I would love to hear your thoughts and takeaways. Join the conversation in the Authentic Parenting Facebook group or visit the contact page at authenticparenting.com/contact to get in touch. Authentic Parenting is an ad-free show, and your donations is what makes this podcast possible. Support the show by visiting authenticparenting.com/support or becoming a patron at patreon.com. Your contributions make it possible for me to continue bringing you weekly episodes. And as always, connect to the present moment, to yourself and your children. Until next week, I am Anna Seewald. Thank you so much for listening. This episode was edited and produced by Ami Noor. If you need expert support to bring your dream podcast to life, from editing to full production, Ami Noor can help make it happen. You'll find his link in the show notes.